The idea that some secret cabal of the powerful is keeping the rest of us down, maybe impending our financial progress to fire. What a dilemma. Hey, Zempuck here. Okay, so I know I've railed against the system a few times on my cliffs, right? The system being, not so much capitalism itself, but this never-ending grind of regular employment that most people are a part of, right? I'd argue these days that most schooling, all the way through college, mainly are aimed at producing the kind of follower workers that society likes. After all, the reason why most people live paycheck to paycheck is because that's what this economy wants and needs. I don't say this like I mind it, mind you, okay? I don't. Consumer societies like the US creates and fulfills demands from, well, people. I don't think that's good or bad. Frankly, it's a system that I work with, within, anyway. I work within. After all, I am, above all, a capitalist in the purest sense of the word, aka as in my money, aka capital, is what sustains me these days, not my work anymore, right? Just capital. So why do I bring this up? Well, it's because in my discourse with others about the viability of early retirement, somebody sent me this some YouTube clip anyway, that clearly borders on the conspiracy theory side of things, right? I want to quickly address this idea that some secret cabal of actual individuals are pulling the strings, and that's the real reason why most people can't get ahead, right? Now, instead of linking and spreading conspiracies, I'm just going to boil down this conspiracy theorist's major points, and frankly, I think it's pretty simple to list, right? There's 4 of them. 1, only one side of the news gets censored, the guy could get canceled for just talking about this. 2, great wars, including the current cultural wars in the US since time immemorial, has been controlled by a secret select few people who wants control above all else. 3, these puppet masters keep the people down in the sense that people can't save, and without a moat of finances, they have little control over their lives. 4, the world is falling apart. These bad guys have almost succeeded. We should rail against these illuminati people or whatever. Whew, that is a lot of hard to disprove points, right? But I'll just apply some common sense to this in a bit, as well as add a bit of flavor as to how talks of a controlling group differs from my general distaste as to how our society actually functions in terms of its relationship to work and money. Anyway, if you're intrigued by what I might say, please subscribe, like, comment, and share, and all that social media buzzwords or whatever, because I am rich enough already for me, and will be great regardless. Now, first and foremost, I need to refute all of the points of said conspiracy-ish clickbaity videos about puppet masters being in control, right? All right? So, to their point 1, conspiracies actually do not get censored these days. We've never seen as much BS theories being talked about on the internet than now. And part of the reason is because of social media and how most people can't actually reasonably judge who is just talking for the sake of talking. Case in point, being this little conspiracy theory video that we're referring to, right? Sub-point number 2, I don't disagree that rich people want to control other people's lives. I would do that if I was in their position, frankly. That's just human nature. Is this some sort of great revelation? But the rebuttal here is more about, it's not always the same people lording it over others, though. Have you ever met any kids of very rich people? They definitely get dumber and less interested over time, because the next generation always missed that, what the OG had, and that's hunger, right? Sub-point number 3, regular people do not need puppet masters to go blow their savings. The inability to delay short-term satisfaction, again, is a feature of the human brain. We do that because it hasn't been that long since, getting pleasure now is the most important thing, because, a human can be killed very easily, so why not live it up right now? And finally, sub-point number 4, the world is absolutely not falling apart right now. Who really believes this? Which era would I prefer to live in? Right now, with iPhones and easy travel and an astounding amount of options to invest or spend in, or around the same time last century when the world was sandwiched between 2 world wars? Good Lord, I hope nobody would pick back in the days, okay? Culture wars can be ignored. Real world wars cannot be. Now, point number 2, the big difference between when I say, oh, society has it out for the common man, and the version where the Illuminati has it out for the common man is that it's way easier to blame individual people and go down a rabbit hole with hate. Whereas when I phrase the system as an overarching theme, it's hard to pin frustration on society, right? That's absolutely intentional. Look at what happens when people actually follow any narrative that involves a cabal supposedly doing something really awful. That's the kind of story that ends up with some moron going to a pizza joint in DC thinking that he's going to save children from the clutches of democratic political candidates. That is just absurd. Listen, I have met billionaires and presidential candidates alike, right? I'm not saying I know them well, but I've met them. Frankly, none come across as some kind of mastermind that twiddles their mustache in the night and have plans to go that go exactly what how they wanted to go for decades on end, much less generations. Okay, of course, rich people, are more powerful and has more influence, but influence alone does not mean control in the sense that these conspiracies likes to imply, right? If influence alone was enough, why would any rich person like that orange juice, for example, run for president? The whole point of being in the political office is to have more direct control, right? If having money alone was enough, there wouldn't be the very frequent billionaire political candidate class that we have seen in the West. So no, I don't think there is some shadowy organization that somehow has transcended the ego and insecurities of pretty much every single group or individual of people that I have ever met. Don't idealize the unknown, right? People are people. We all want control to the extent that we can get. Nothing particularly nefarious about that, right? But without enough people on the planet, to be honest, with enough people on the planet working at cross purposes, what ends up happening is just societal trends. That is definitely a direction towards a particular type of, living, but it's not specifically according to any single person or even a group's whim. Okay. So, final point, is all hope lost then, whether it's due to a group or due to the general zeitgeist? Should one's attitude be, well, that's that, nothing to be done about it, right? We're just being swept up by the place and culture that we live in, right? Oh Lord, no, right? You know me. I believe in individualism, right? I don't think the world is falling apart. So I do believe that positive change can be made. And the one bit where the conspiracy video guy and I agree on is that a financial moat is a nice thing to have, for different purposes, of course. He wants people to have it to defend themselves against the puppet masters. I want it just so that people can quit the corporate drudgery, right? The effect, however, is the same. If we don't like the system for whatever reason, then exit, change, make it so. I can tell you on my relatively short financial journey to FIRE, no shadowy whoever ever materialized before me to make my life harder, right? Heck, mostly I just got coworkers being astonished and asking me for advice. So let me be clear. Though I think capitalism has the effect of keeping most workers in an endless loop, the actual exit to such a life is very clear and open, right? Just get enough capital. Now, of course, that is no goal to scoff at, right? And it did take me even a decade and a half, but that's a hell of a lot of a shorter amount of time than 3 or 4, or as projected these days for most people, 5 or 6 decades, right? So I'd argue some focus is what you need, right? If you really care to have your personal freedom back, that is. Okay, rant over. I just really wanted to refute these conspiracy theories, also because I think it takes mental power away from the oppressed, right? If someone's always fretting about some secret group or another, they're not using their brain to control the aspect of their lives that can actually be controlled, right? I'll leave a slim window to say, hey, could the Illuminati exist? Sure, I guess anything is possible, but they really have no direct effect on my life, right? Because I'm just a small fry. Maybe if I ever become a politician or some kind of hotshot on a global scale, then I'll have to deal with that issue when it arises. And I'll bet it's a similar scenario with most people on the planet, right? So don't worry about stuff that's totally outside of our leagues, right? And just concentrate on, making more money or shave off some spending so one can get to FIRE sooner, right? And then if you still want to be a theorist on whatever subject you want in retirement, sure, that's your call. Cheers. I'll approach it.